Hey everybody, it's Jax again from the Popcorn Review Podcast. Today's gonna be my episode 101, and we're gonna be talking about a movie, the Michael Jackson movie, or Michael. Now, a lot of people in my age group are big Michael Jackson fans. A lot of people like him because of his dancing, his singing, his different creativity. So to watch this movie here was really nice to see. Watched it with the family at home. It's been out, I think, since April. But every time we try to catch it in movie theaters, it would be like no one's there, and then we finally get it like, oh yeah, we're gonna go, and then sold out. Like it was insane. At one point, there was the whole theater was empty. Hour later, we went to check again. Boom, sold out. So we said, fuck it, we're gonna watch it from home. But it was a really good movie. Showed you the creativity of Michael Jackson. Showed you from when he was a young child, around I think it was like 8 or 10 years old, starting off with the Jackson Five. How crazy his life was as a child. He was the best singer out of his family. Of course, that's why he was so big and global. But it showed you that he was the best singer even at a young age. But it was just crazy to me how his father was very abusive. Even in the movie, it showed you that when they got old enough to fight back, none of the boys were willing to fight back. They were scared to. He even, beat Michael in the movie. Um, there's definitely talk that Michael Jackson says that even in interviews when he was alive that when he was alive, excuse me, that his father was mentally and physically abusive to him. Called him big nose, called him different names growing up. And because he was the youngest, it almost like he felt like he needed to beat his son, which I don't see how that's possible. Yes, some kids are acting out and act crazy, but from what they portrayed in the movie, Michael Jackson wasn't that kind of kid. He was a regular kid, just wanted to have fun. But what I will say is that even me being a Michael Jackson fan, I didn't know how creative Michael Jackson was. There was pictures that he drew that I saw on Instagram a few months ago that he was drawing, and he could draw like Mickey Mouse, he could draw Spider-Man. Like he was very artistic when it came to drawing, painting, stuff like that. So it makes sense that he was a good singer. I mean, he was a great singer, but it just makes sense that he was able to do these other avenues, create music, write music, produce music. Um, but yeah, his father took advantage of the whole Jackson Five. And yes, they can say that their father was, I guess, the pushing force or the main force of them becoming the Jackson Five and getting them out there and into the world. But if it wasn't for their son Michael Jackson, the Jackson Five wouldn't be what it is. Wouldn't have been as big as it was. Um, Michael Jackson could dance his ass off, create dance moves that people till this day, the moonwalk, still try to emulate and copy. But it was really nice to see this movie. Like I said, we saw it with my wife and kids, and it was just really good. I would give this movie honestly a 9, and I'm only saying that because I didn't know going into the movie it was gonna be a two-parter or a trilogy going in at first. I thought it was just gonna be telling of his story. I think the movie was about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. But they kind of jumped pretty fast. They jumped from like 1966 to 1971. Then they jumped to like 88, and they had like different time periods. So that kind of bothered me. That's the only reason why I'm giving it a 9 personally, just because I felt like there was so much more of the story that could have been told. If that was the case, it should have been Michael Jackson Part One or Michael Jackson Chapter One, something to that effect. That would have made more sense to me. But to at the end of the movie going, oh, his life continues. And then everyone online is talking about, oh, yeah, they're going to have a two-parter or they're possibly a three-part movie or a three-part trilogy rather. And again, if I would have known that going in, I would have anticipated it. But then seeing that at the end of the movie, after you just invested 2 hours plus, and then finding out that the movie is ending where it is, that kind of sucked. But it was nice to see how he was bringing different people together. He was bringing different countries together. He wanted to be on MTV, even though when MTV at that time was predominantly white artists. He had his people pretty much force him onto MTV, and that kind of made him global there as well. Just doing different things, thinking outside the box. Showed how he was finding, not finding, but he was adopting or saving a lot of animals. They showed his monkey Bubbles. They showed him with a snake, a rat. They showed him with a giraffe. They talked about the llama. I don't remember seeing the llama in the movie, but they just talked about a bunch of different animals that he had. Now, what I thought was odd, none of them called their dad dad. They called him Joseph. Now, I don't know if that's something that he told them to do, but he treated them like property. And that sucks. He treated his kids and his wife like property. And that dynamic, like even in the movie, he was like when Michael was trying to do his own solo album Thriller, he said, "Yeah, you could do it, but I own your ass 9 to 5. So after 5 o'clock, you could do whatever you want, but I own you from 9 to 5. So just know at 9 o'clock in the morning, your ass better be on that mic." Now, to say that to your kids, like literally, yes, you're putting a lot of work into the being a manager and the family finances. They moved from like a 2 bedroom house to like a mansion in California. Everyone had their own room. Mike, but it was off of Michael and the Jackson Five's back. He ended up firing his dad in the movie and in real life, of course. It just shows that the different avenues that he took and who actually was there for him. Like all the bad stuff that happened in his life happened because of his father. His father beat him when he was young, abused him mentally and physically, like I mentioned. He kept calling him Big Nose throughout the movie, and that kept playing a big part in his head. But the craziest thing about it is, how can you sit there and say he had a big nose when in real life, the father has the biggest nose out of the entire family? Just didn't understand that. Even the actor that portrayed Joseph had a big nose. It could have been a prosthetic, of course. I don't really know. But it's just crazy how he kept putting that in his head, to the point that he had the surgeries because of his dad. And there's one thing that I never understood until I saw the movie. So I'm sure other people have paid attention to this before. He always read books of Neverland, and it was his favorite character. And it said that he believed that he was like a reincarnation of Peter Pan, or he identified with Peter Pan. Now, there was a side profile of Peter Pan looking out Wendy's window in the book, and he had his nose. And that's the nose that Michael Jackson ended up having later on in life. So now I realize that he wasn't, it wasn't that a big part of it was his father kept playing in his head like, "Oh, shut up, big nose. Oh, you got a big nose." I just kept talking down to him. But he wanted to be Peter Pan so bad that he was willing to change his facial features because of his dad, one, and two, because he wanted to be Peter Pan. And he talked about the vitiligo, how it affected his skin. It started off on his arms, then it spread through his body. There was a big thing growing up when I was a kid that they said Michael Jackson bleached his skin, and everybody believed it. Everybody did. But this movie put it out there. At least this, I mean, I found this out later in life as an adult that he did have that vitiligo disease or skin disease, and it kind of sucks that people actually believed it. Even myself believed that, yo, he bleached his skin as when we were kids. But his father being in his head, talking down to him, he treated all these grown ass men as children, even when they were in their 20s and higher. Some of them weren't even living there no more, and he was still treating them like children. He tried to beat Michael's ass when he was in his mid 20s. Like, what? Like threatened to beat him with a belt. Like that's crazy to me. But it just showed you like from Michael Jackson was a child, the different people that he interacted with and helped him become the better version of himself. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier, all the bad things that happened to Michael Jackson was because of his father, Joseph. And I would say his mother did play a part in there because she didn't stand up for Michael. So at least that's how I'm taking it. I mean, of course she might have, and he might have beat her too. We really don't know. They didn't show that in the movie, but I know for a fact that if he beat his one son, he beat his other kids too. And one thing that's crazy to me, like I mentioned, that everything that bad that happened to Michael happened because of his father. The whole Pepsi incident, he was doing the Pepsi thing because his father kind of like guilt tripped him into it, working with Don King. Guilt tripped him into it, and that's when he had his hair burned and pretty much scalped. He was lucky that he didn't die. And then he had like an epiphany in the hospital saying like, "Hey, these kids don't have what I have." And he tells his agent, he goes, "Hey, what are we getting from the lawsuit?" He was like, "Probably 7 figures." He was like, "Give it to the hospital." He goes, I can heal from this, but the kids who are in this burn unit cannot, and they need to be helped, or at least try to help them." So all the money he got from Pepsi, he actually gave to the hospital that was helping him get better for the kids who were there. And it just shows you how good-hearted, how kind-hearted he was. And again, how creative he was. He was in the pool and his brothers were like fucking with him. And he goes like, "Hey Mike, what are you doing?" He was like, "Man, I'm trying to get something from the man upstairs, you know. If I don't do it, you know, he's gonna give the inspiration to Prince because Prince was a big rival for him back in the day." So it was kind of funny. But it just shows you how creative he was, like I said. And it does suck that the way the movie ended, his life continues. So there's gonna be a part two, possibly a part three. One thing that I did notice, and I also saw them talking about this before the movie came out, that Janet Jackson didn't want to be in the movie. And they didn't show her as a child. They didn't show her as a teenager. They didn't show her at all. They did not show, she literally said she knows that Michael Jackson wouldn't want this movie to be made. She said, Michael Jackson was my best friend, or my brother was my best friend, and I don't want no part of this. So they didn't even mention Janet Jackson in the movie at all. Like, her being born, it showed Michael Jackson with his other brothers, Tito and them, and Latoya Jackson, but they did not even mention. It was as if she was never existed in their world. But great movie. He finally stood up to his dad at the end, and that's pretty much where he blew up. And everyone kind of was like, yeah, you're about time. You did the right thing. And that's kind of like when everybody left. Honestly, the mom grew a backbone in the movie. Finally, at the end, the boys started growing a backbone. But it took, even Michael said during the movie, when his bodyguard or security guard was like, "Hey man, just move out," and he was like, "No, I'm not ready." And then he waited till he had his, after the Pepsi incident, helped the family make some money on a tour, and then he was like, "Hey, this is our last tour together. This is our farewell tour." And then he started his career from there, like more of his career solo. So nice to see the different parts of the movie when he kind of like had the Bloods and the Crips meet up with him, and they were showing them how to dance, like break dancing and stuff like that, or pop locking. So it was really cool, honestly, to see the different aspects of his life on what he did. Because of course you hear things through the news or the media, but you don't know everything. Even that movie, we don't know if it's 100% accurate. But just to his nephew to learn all the different moves, mannerisms, the dance choreography, possibly had to lose weight to be his uncle. Really good. I mean, I would say he looked like his uncle almost the entire time that he was portraying it. There was, I would say, towards the end by the victory tour that he was in, he didn't look hit like Michael that much. From the side profile he did, but face from the front of the face he didn't. But for the most part, had the mannerism down, the dancing down, the clothes down. He was Michael Jackson, honestly. But like I mentioned, I give this a 9 only because I didn't know it was going to be a trilogy or a two-part movie. So that kind of sucks. Got to wait a few years till that comes out. But in all, we caught it on Amazon Prime. I think it's still in theaters as of now. It's June 24th when I'm recording this. So it is in Amazon Prime now, but it is in theaters, but it is on its way out. It's been there since April. So it's actually been there for a while now. But give it a 9, guys. If you guys want to catch the movie Michael Jackson's story, I would say for the first 25 years or so, maybe. But it was a good movie. Can't wait to see what they do next. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.